We do have a quorum.
All right, I'm ready.
Nope, no problem. We got a quorum. Just need to ask everybody to stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We allow public input at the beginning of this meeting. Is anybody here that would like to give public input to this board? Hello.
Hello. Back again. I'm Lenora Giles, and I am president of the ASME 3516, our local for the 911 dispatchers, because I'm short. And I want to thank you guys for all of your hard work and management for their hard work. We're still negotiating and trying to get that COLA resolved. We have an addendum that we'd like you to consider this afternoon when you go into executive session. And just take some mindful thought. We really need to stay competitive and get good qualified people in. It is a very tough job, I can testify to that. And we need good staffing to support our law enforcement, our fire, our deputies, and all of that. So just consider, we worked really hard to come up with a fair counteroffer, and I would hope that you would consider that and we can move forward with that and vote on our side. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here for public input? All righty, moving on then. Look for approval of the minutes dated March 30th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Motion carries. State radio expansion project. Hello, Scott.
Good afternoon, Scott McMahon, Director of Metro Communications. Yes, agenda number 4 is a state radio expansion project informational item at this point. The South Dakota State Radio Network is an important resource for effective public safety response, including Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls and really across the state for all emergency responders. So that is one project that I'll speak a little bit more about here. But also, in addition to that, we want to share information about consideration for expansion of our existing Sioux Falls Simulcast, along with the addition of a Simulcast system in rural Minnehaha County. The current Sioux Falls Simulcast sites were constructed years ago, and they benefit communication within our shared agencies. These projects will include cooperation of multiple entities to include City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, State of South Dakota, and possibly some of the surrounding counties around us. So the State of South Dakota provides the infrastructure for the statewide digital radio system. And the master site is located in Pierce, South Dakota, with various tower sites across the state, with Sioux Falls having one of those tower sites. Currently, they're making some changes, some adjustments to enhance that system for P25 compliance. And the coverage for mobile radios across the state is really, it's an excellent condition as far as the coverage goes. However, on the portable side, portable radio use, there's limitations across the state. And emergency responders rely heavily upon those portable radios that they carry on their persons. So what we want to do is try and provide for the best radio communications through portable radios as well as those mobile radios. So over the past year, Metro Communications has collected information. We've coordinated meetings at a state level and at a local level to talk about radio communications for our first responders for today and well into the future. And today, Matt Tooley is going to provide some information on what a future plan for radio communications might look like for Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls for emergency responders. So with that, I'll invite Matt Tooley to the podium.
Good afternoon, Matt Tooley with Metro Communications. As you may or may not be aware, all of our responders use the state of South Dakota's public safety digital trunked radio system for communications amongst themselves as well as with dispatch. Just a little brief history on the state system, why it came about, why it's important. Back in the mid-90s, Spencer, South Dakota got wiped out by a tornado. And they had responders coming from all over the state. Nobody was able to talk to each other on the radios because they all had their own radios, which had their own frequencies to their home territories. At that point, then Governor Janklow brought in this statewide system where it improves interoperability, where you can talk to anybody in the state as long as you're on the system. So we're able to talk with responders in Rapid City or Buffalo, South Dakota. We've had many multi-agency calls where this system has helped us out a lot. Some of the more recent ones for Sioux Falls use, probably the biggest one is the civil disturbance back on May 31st of 2020. We had the ability with this state system where we could have state responders, city and local responders, as well as federal responders with the armed forces coming in to help us out as well. They could all get on the same radio network and communicate with each other. Without that interoperability, we wouldn't have been able to have as good a luck as we did communication-wise that night. Same thing with the Copper Cottage or the Copper Lounge collapse back in December of 2016. We had state and local entities able to talk to each other easily because of the interoperability. As Scott mentioned, the Sioux Falls, we've got what's called a Simulcast system. Over a number of years, the portable radio coverage for emergency responders in Sioux Falls has expanded from one site. Initially, when the system was built, we had a site, which is currently we have one at Wall Lake, and then there's one in northern Minnehaha County up by Baltic, and there was one in Sioux Falls. Coverage wasn't the greatest due to topography and buildings and trees. As the jurisdictional boundaries of Sioux Falls increases, there's a need to expand the radio system. So we took and we created what's called a simulcast system, where currently we've got 3 towers that are working together. Works very similar to your Wi-Fi in your house. The more Wi-Fi hotspots you have, the better your Wi-Fi coverage is. Same thing with the same principle exists here. The more towers we have tied together into a simulcast system, the better the coverage is going to be for the responders. So there is a need, as you're aware, the city is growing in all directions. So there is a need to expand our simulcast system. Currently, our 3 towers are on the northern part of town. We've got our main one is on the water tower at the VA. And we've got a second tower at the Isaac Walton League on the northeast side of town. And we've got a third tower just east of the state penitentiary on North Drive. That one was built mainly to penetrate the downtown areas. So looking at the maps of our current coverage, this is what our portable radio coverage is currently. The blue, or the whatever color you're seeing, it's black up there. The black or blue is what's decent radio coverage today. Covers pretty well. So we do have some issues in the southern part of Sioux Falls, mainly southeast and southwest, where portable coverage is difficult. As Scott had mentioned, the mobile coverage is a lot better, and the reason the mobile coverage is better, mobile radios broadcast at 50 watts, whereas a portable radio is at 5 watts, so there's not as much power to get out to get to the tower sites. So we're looking at expanding the Sioux Falls site. We've been working with Motorola, as well as the City of Sioux Falls Police and Fire Departments and the Minnehaha County Sheriff, as well as Emergency Management. And we have pulled Lincoln County in as well. We're looking at adding 2 tower sites on the south side of Sioux Falls, one of which we're going to put up hopefully over at the new fire station, Fire Station 12. And then we're going to put a tower on antenna on top of the water tower over at Keene Park, which will help those two areas where we have problems. When we initially started looking at the project, we weren't looking at those 2 towers. We were looking at adding a couple towers down in Lincoln County, one just south of Harrisburg and one in the middle of T, which will benefit those 2 areas in Sioux Falls as well. And as you can see on that second map, that really benefits Lincoln County as well. So we're trying to pull Lincoln County in to get some financial input from them as well to help with this project. So again, if you compare the 2 maps, you can see along the interstate, which is the state runs most of the interstate stuff. There's a lot of dead spots today on portable coverage. That's going to be improved. We're looking also at adding in a secondary simulcast site. So northern Minnehaha, we've got a tower, like I said, up east of Baltic now. We're going to use that one. We're going to add in an additional 4 or 5 sites. I thought it was 5, only counting 4 on the map, which will help to improve the county coverage. As you can see on the first map that came up, there's a big yellow area right pretty much all over the whole county once you get outside of Sioux Falls. So all of our responders in the county are having issues with portable coverage. That's law enforcement, fire, EMS. So we're working with Captain Bossman over at the sheriff's office to hopefully get some funding set aside for that, for the Minnehaha County simulcast. We're still going to have a few areas of low coverage. Topography, it is what it is. Unless you're going to put up, 3 or 4 more towers, we're never going to get 100% coverage. But they do have some workarounds where they can make stuff work. So we're looking at 2 projects, combining them into one. Again, the funding isn't going to come through Metro. This is more of an informational deal. Here's the guys that are going to hopefully pay the bill for us. More than likely, Metro will end up running the project, coordinating it. But as far as the project itself, hopefully we can get the funding for it. We're looking, depending on what we do, anywhere from 6 to 8 million for both projects. So we're working on, myself and Captain Bossman at the sheriff's office, we're working on a funding mechanism to try to figure out how to fairly decide which entities are responsible for what percentage of the bill and such. So I open up for any questions.
Questions?
I guess you had mentioned Sheriff's Department. I'm assuming you're Lincoln County, since they're going to benefit, any possibility that they're going to be willing?
We've included them in all of our talks. We don't have a commitment from them yet. We are hoping for that. If we don't get a commitment, the plan is going to change some. More than likely, the 2 towers in Lincoln County won't happen. So we're hoping to get some commitment out of them on it.
How much? What's the ask?
We haven't figured out the percentage yet. So what we're doing, we're going through and trying to figure out the percentage that each agency uses, or try to guesstimate the best we can the percentage that each agency is going to benefit from each site, and break it out that way. So we don't have an answer for that yet.
More than a bake sale?
Much more than a bake sale, yes. So we're hoping Lincoln County will get on board, because it, as you can see, it would benefit them hugely as well. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, any questions?
How much federal dollars are available for this in the form of grants and other things? And this is a substantial amount of money, as you know full well. So trying to figure out what other resources there are than local dollars for this.
We're kind of hoping, hopefully some ARPA funds are available. We do have, the state is going to be a partner as well. So there will be hopefully some state funding involved there as well. To honestly answer your question, I don't have an answer for that right now, Mr. Mayor. And I say,
and I'm not sure if this will qualify for ARPA funds or not. That would be a question for people smarter than me. But
it does qualify
I know
for ARPA
from our
funds.
standpoint, from the city, a lot of our ARPA funds have been allocated or spoken for. So we would have to look at an alternative source for this.
As far as ARPA funds, we have looked into that. It does qualify for ARPA.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
So again,
One final question. When would what's the capital outlay for this in terms of a timeline? When is this project, when would it move ahead, and when would dollars be needed?
So we're looking at the earliest to roll it out would be fourth quarter of '23. Reason for the delay, that the state of South Dakota is currently upgrading the radio system to be P25 compliant. And that rolls out starting early next year. And we're gonna need that to be completed prior to this site coming online, because it'll have to meet the same requirements. Guessing probably around the same time. I'm hoping it'll be after we open our new center.
Good with that, Mayor?
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Moving on to our financial statements year to date.
Okay, I'll have Business Manager Anna Raker step up.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, Anna Raker, Business Manager for Metro Communications. So our financial statements today cover the period of the 3 months ending March 31st, 2022. We're early in the year, and so there isn't a significant amount of activity to report, but we're doing well as an agency financially. We're looking to be on track as far as budget based on the information we have available to us today. In the balance sheet, I'll point out that our cash is very strong right now. Part of that, a great deal of that, is due to staffing vacancies that we talked about throughout last year and even early this year. And so, we've saved some dollars both in the form of staffing vacancies, and then we've done well for 2022. Our group and health insurance came in with really stable premiums, which is a very good deal for all of us. So very thankful for that. You'll also notice here that there's a little bit of a difference under accounts receivable. That's simply a difference of how quickly people are paying. And then you can see right here, there's a negative amount on due from state and due from county. And that just reflects the fact that we're starting to see some growth, and a little more growth than we had been experiencing before in 911 surcharges, and we talked about that a little bit at the last meeting. And so we've exceeded what our estimated revenues were at year end for 911 surcharges. As far as the balance sheet, the only other thing that really sticks out to me is our accounts payable is a little higher at the end of March, and really that's just a reflection of the fact that SDRS was paid in the month of March in 2021, and it was paid in the month of April. Sometimes we pay it before the end of the month if we have the ability to. Any questions about the balance sheet? Okay. Moving on to the summary comparison to the prior year. The first obvious thing, and we talked about this last month, is, last month in March, is we have 911 surcharges in the month of March in 2022. We did not have that in 2021, and that was simply just the state was a little delayed in getting those funds out, and so it took a while for those funds to flow through. But we have those funds this year, and so it looks like a significant increase, but they were just doubled up in the month of April last year. You see the increase of 15% in the city and county share, which reflects the budgeted increase. As far as the rest of this, again, early in the year, we do report on a kind of a prepaid basis to give you a relevant comparison by month, so that we even out large expenditures for annual or quarterly amounts, and we spread them over the months to make it easier for you to evaluate our financial health. The biggest difference in the operating, I'll point out, is this year we've spent in the supplies category $10,600, whereas last year we had expended over $35,000. If you recall, last year we had some grant funds to purchase some, or local funding amounts to purchase several things like radios, which were $10,000 alone. And then part of this is also a reflection of the timing of receiving equipment this year. Things are delayed. And so even though our technology coordinator ordered computers, it took a little bit longer for them to come in, and that's just part of the supply chain that everybody's experiencing. So you're going to see some delays in things that normally would have been accomplished earlier in the year as a comparison. Moving on to the comparison to our original year-to-date budget. This is in detail, and we look at year-to-date with the year-to-date budget as a relevant comparison, and then we also compare it to the annual budget and give you the percentage of the annual budget, so you can look at it either way. If you look at the 911 surcharges, you'll see that in the first month, the January surcharges, which were received in March, are 1.8% more than what we had originally budgeted, and that's in the realm of what we talked about, that we're starting to see a little bit of an increase. You also see the increase in, you see that 25% of the annual budget for city and county share. Salaries. What I would point out in salaries is, again, we have some gaps right now. We've been working on recruitment, but you can see that we have quite a savings right now in the period to date. We normally would have expected over 800,000 in salaries, and we're at 700,000. But you'll notice that our overtime is up a little bit, and our temp wages remain strong. So we continue to utilize temp employees, as Scott reports, and then our overtime's a little higher because we do have some staffing gaps, but we're working hard at recruitment, and our recruitment numbers are actually up based on the efforts we've been focusing on, so we're pleased with that. You'll also notice the savings in insurance, and that's reflective both of gaps and the savings in stable premiums. When you get into expenditures, everything looks pretty good. You'll notice that things are pretty stable. There are some hardware expenses that are less this year than we had actually budgeted, and again, that's partly due to the timing of ordering things and receipt of items in today's environment. Do you have any questions, or is there anything in particular that you'd like to review?
Personally, I don't see any surprises, anything I think you pointed out to us, so we're early and it's operating as it should be, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I would request a motion to approve, and Drew, do we need a roll call vote, or is that okay? Okay. Okay.
Okay, look for a motion to approve the financial report.
Move to approve. Kylie?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Same sign, motion carries. All right. Moving on to our budget talk now. When does the budget have to be approved by? It seems like we're early on this, but are we?
According to our joint agreement, we need to have provided a budget presentation on or before May 15th.
Okay.
And generally, the more time sensitive is for the county. They like to have the budget figures to plug into their budget.
So this is the presentation, but is approval necessary today?
Mayor Tenhaken has requested in prior years that we present at the end of March and 1st of April, give you a month to review with the potential of taking action at the end of April. So the presentation was on March 30th.
Last month, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then this would be the time where we would, that's why it's listed as requested budget approval, but
Okay.
that is up to you as a council.
And the reason I ask this, and for you too, Mayor, I know as grateful as we are to Councilor Kiley and his 8 years of being here, and Councilor Erickson, I didn't know if this was something that we could, probably coordinate with the new councilors coming on. But if this is the way we do it, for budgeting purposes from the county perspective, we need to do it this way.
My thought on that is that, we will have two new counselors in the chair, on this council here, but for them, they'll be so green that the budget approval will really be a formality for them because they really won't know what they're approving, and that's no offense to them, but just probably going to be the reality. So I'm still fine with us, going through and approving the budget today, but the point's a good one. And the other thing that we'll have, just while we're on that subject, is obviously the challenge of turning over both of those city seats together at the same time right now. It's Kylie's last meeting, Councilor Erickson's done as well. So we'll have a little bit of of education time that's going to have to happen with whoever steps into those roles here from the city side.
Because typically our budget and your budget are like an October or September approval for by October 1, that type of thing. So we are way ahead of the curve by doing this now, which is fine. Budgets are a blueprint, and seldom are they 100% at the end anyway, but it gives us a basis to begin with. So floor is yours, Scott.
Okay, well, at the last Metro Management Council meeting, I introduced you to the budget. Went through line by line of our proposed 2023 budget. Some of the changes were going from about a 15% cost support from the city and county to 8%, and that number carries forward, that 8% carries forward into 2024. But really, our budget for 2023 is very similar to 2022. There are no major capital improvement projects or anything like that in next year's budget. It pretty much is very much operational to cover the cost of staff and benefits and the normal contracts and services that we have. There's nothing in next year's budget to really expand on today. What I would like to do is just go back to the PowerPoint that I presented at the last meeting, and we talked about some of those future capital outlay projects, considering additional police council, renovations to our current facility in about 2025, replacement of radio consoles in 2026. We have determined that those radio consoles in 2026 should not be an expense to us because we already have the licensing, so that's good news for today because that was a rather large figure we were looking at. And then additional fire console in 2026. And the other thing that I didn't have in this PowerPoint is what we discussed today, this radio expansion project. Although that the state will have their work done on P25 compliance by October of 23, that doesn't necessarily move forward the project that we discussed today. So I don't want the two to get confused and for the council to be under the impression that we have to somehow come up with $4 to $6 million in the next year. That's certainly something that could be done at a later point after we've had more review, more discussion, more visits on just the project, overall project, and the scope of the project. And right at this point, we don't even have a confirmed quote of what the cost is going to be. So I'm just trying not to get the cart ahead of the horse here, but for the October 23 is the date for the state to come in and do their work. But like I said, the things we talked about today are certainly just concepts, considerations, discussions about what the future of radio communications would look like for our emergency responders in Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls. So hopefully that clarifies that date a little bit.
Mayor, I don't know if you have the budget to look at. As Scott said, it hasn't changed since the preliminary look really last month.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions, especially after seeing it from last month too. It's pretty. I mean, there's not a lot of changes year over year this budget. I mean, last year we had some more significant changes with some of the funding and staffing pieces and so forth. But I don't have any questions on the budget as presented for this year.
Councilor Kiley?
I do not have any questions. I would make a motion.
Please.
Happily make a motion to approve the 2023 budget.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Karski,
Aye.
Councilmember Kiley,
Aye.
Mayor Tenhagen,
Aye.
That passes 3-0. Budget approved for 2023. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Again, I just want to recognize Councilor Kiley and Councilors Erickson. This is their last meeting. 8 years is a long time.
Went by very quickly.
Thank you.
It's been my honor to serve.
And for Metro Communications, thank you for everything that you've done for Metro over the past 8 years, Counselor. It's very much appreciated, and it's keeping us in the position that we are to enhance public safety in City of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County, and that work is, the work result is of all of us. You know, it's not taken for granted, all the work that you did to help us achieve our success.
So our next upcoming meeting, is this right, is August 17th?
Correct.
Oh, wow, okay. You'll be long retired. You're welcome back
From
anytime.
this board, I will
Yeah,
be.
yeah, welcome back anytime. All right, I'd look now for a motion to adjourn. Well, we will take a recess because we got to shut the electronics down. So I'm going to look for a motion to go to recess for 10 minutes.
And I will move to go into executive session for the purposes
No,
of-
we're not, no, we have to come back and then we go.
Oh, the recess first.
Yeah, we-
Sorry.
Yep.
Jumping the gun.
Yep, so motion to go into recess.
Oh, motion to go to recess.
Okay, we got a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
We are at recess for the next 10 minutes.